All right, so we're still trying to get hold of the Minister of Home Affairs to talk about the state of affairs in his department. Two Home Affairs officials have been jailed for 5 years, and this for fraud and various offences. And the Minister began by telling us how pleased he was that this was found out. But let's try and catch up with the Minister again. He's in our Pretoria studios, and I think we've got him on the line now. Minister, thanks very much indeed for your patience. Just before we had to cut out, I had asked you about some of the interventions that you started to deploy, and you said that with modernity, as you change your systems, people become cleverer and employ different techniques. Do you get a sense that you are winning the war against corruption generally, though?
No, I do get that sense because quite a number of them are being caught. Almost every week or so, we do issue statements about people who have been caught in Home Affairs. I think, Peter, the 4IR is really going to help us a lot. The problem is that with Home Affairs, quite a number of our documents were done manually on paper, etc. Now that we started using 4IR in modernization, these type of events are becoming lesser and lesser, but people are also getting caught. That's what is good about it.
All right, so which areas are you seeing a lot of corruption in? I mean, for a long time it was birth certificates, because from there things like ID documents and right to work, those kinds of things become possible. So that was always one area of concern. Are there other areas that you've started to identify?
Oh, the problem with Home Affairs is that corruption can go through the whole system. IDs, passports, permits, visas, you name it, it can actually be corrupted. And so all the time we're changing our system. I'm sure you'll be aware, Peter, that we, for instance, starting from 2013, we are issuing the smart ID card, the one that looks like a credit card, precisely because the previous barcoded green ID was easily defrauded. Now we have got this new one, which is almost impossible to defraud. Our passport also, you'll remember that in the past, we used to get to the UK without any visa. It was a visa-free entry. But then the UK got worried when our passports were easily defrauded. We then changed and are issuing a new type of a passport that is very difficult to defraud. So throughout the whole system, we are now busy, as I'm talking, we'll issue a statement very soon. We're investigating the issue of saving of visas from to some people in Pakistan from our Namibia office. We are about to finalize and announce exactly what has happened. So it is throughout the whole system, but the good thing, as I'm saying, is that we're able to catch the people.
All right, and then starting to move away from corruption, one area that was always a concern was the backlog in dealing with issues such as asylum seekers. With digitization, has that process started to move more quickly?
No, the problem there, Peter, was not necessarily digitization. The problem was the act and the method. For instance, in the act, it was saying the Standing Committee on Refugees Affairs, which is where people refer all the problematic cases. It has got 5 members. And the law was saying every time they hear a case, there must be a quorum of 3, a minimum of 3. And in the past, only the chairperson was a lawyer. Now, we have changed the regulations. In the new regulations, it says all 5 of them must be lawyers. And it changes the quorum. It says any one of them can sit and hear a case. Because, Peter, maybe let me explain what it means. You know that in the judicial system, there are times when you want 3 judges and you call it a full bench, when the case is very complex. But most of the time in the courts, judges sit alone, not a full bench. Now, in the Home Affairs immigration system, it was a full bench every day, forever. And the Auditor General even said if we continue that way, it will take 68 years to clear the backlog. Now we have changed. You are going to get 5 people who are all lawyers. Each one of them have got the capacity to sit alone and hear a case. So instead of one sitting, you are going to have 5 sittings. That's number one. Number two, we are no longer in the new regulations. We are no longer going to have only 5 people. The minister has got the right to increase them temporarily anytime. When I realize there's a huge backlog, I can appoint 5 more people for 6 months or for a year or for whatever period. So those are the changes that are being brought in the immigration system to try and speed up. Actually, we have drawn up a 4-year program, which we are going to try and follow to clear the backlog using this new system.
All right, and wherever there's situations of enormous backlogs, often it's a part of the system that can fall vulnerable to corruption. Have you seen that at all in trying to deal with these matters?
Are you asking if there's corruption in the immigration system because of the backlogs?
Yes, because
yes. Oh yes, there is. Even by people who don't work for Home Affairs. People who stay outside there and tell somebody that I can help you fast if you give me money. You know, the so-called immigration agents and other people who pretend to be working for Home Affairs and saying I can give you documents much faster if you pay me this much. So yes, there is. There's no question about it.
And you're dealing with it?
Of course, we are dealing with it every day. Unfortunately, most of the victims become the people who make use of that system and say I was misled. But we don't even know that some of the people who misled them. But unfortunately, they become victims because they present fraudulent document. And Peter, unfortunately, once we catch you with a fraudulent document, it doesn't matter how you got it. We take we have to take serious steps because when you defraud documents of a country, you are actually taking away the sovereignty of the country. You are actually throwing away their acts of parliament. They become meaningless. You are actually establishing a parallel state if you start defrauding a country's documents. So we take it very seriously. And unfortunately, people become victims and say, the man who sold me this document said he's working for Home Affairs and all that. So we just want members of the public to be very vigilant. Even if you are disparate, don't agree to be sold a fraudulent document because we'll have to take action against you.
All right, and then perhaps finally, with the escalation of the coronavirus to different parts of the world, have we raised our defense, particularly in terms of securing our borders, with awareness that the coronavirus is moving now?
Well, Peter, I'm sure you are aware that at the beginning of this whole outbreak, I appeared with Minister of Health, Dr. Motsoaledi, in a press conference. And I announced that the Department of Health will take the lead. They are the ones who will issue statements because otherwise we'll confuse the public. And yes, we are working with them. We are part of the NetJoin team that is working with the Department of Health. But they are ones who issue the statement. At the ports of entry, the people there who do the screening, temperature screening, are from Port Health Services in the Department of Health. They are not Home Affairs officials because they are taking the lead on this issue.
All right, Minister, that's where we'll leave it. Thanks very much indeed for your time. That was the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Motsoaledi, talking about his battle against corruption within his department. 2 Home Affairs officials have now been jailed, and that's following a story that we broke in 2016.